And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Friday, April 4th. We have a lot to cover on the show today. Before I get into all that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate, get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. It makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCPodcast.net. That is GSMCPodcast.net. So let's get into what we are going to discuss for today. So we're going to start off the show. We are going to preview and predict the Final Four matchups between Florida and Auburn and Houston and Duke. I'll give you my picks. And, so we're coming down towards the end here of this tournament. Then the national championship is, of course, on Monday. So can't wait for that. So that's what we'll start off with. Then in the second part of the show, we will talk about last night's game between the Warriors and the Lakers. Warriors picking up the win there. It was a very entertaining game. I did tune in towards the end of the first half, but I did watch the entire second half, and it was an entertaining finish, especially with the shooting from the players. Austin Reeves was on fire towards the end of the game, but it was too little, too late for the Lakers. The Warriors picked up the win, so we'll talk about that. We'll also get into talking about a couple extensions in the NFL, a couple of contract extensions. Geno Smith picking up a 2-year extension with the Raiders. We'll talk about Trey McBride as he signs the largest contract extension by a tight end ever in the NFL. So we'll get into that. We'll talk about the Dodgers getting off to this 8-0 start, and do they have the potential to be the greatest team ever? So we'll get into that conversation. And then in the final part of the show, we will continue our season overviews, and today we will be covering the Chargers. We'll go over their season, what they have done in the offseason, and all that. So let's get into the first topic, which is talking about the Final Four. So we've come down to this. It's 3 games left. We got the 2 games tomorrow, and we also have the national championship game on Monday. And all 4 1 seeds have advanced to the Final Four. It's the first time that has happened since 2008. We did mention that on one of the shows earlier this week, but it's set up for 2 very good games. Now, I'll be honest with you, I'm more excited for the Florida-Auburn game than I am for the Duke-Houston game. I feel like the Florida-Auburn game definitely can have a dramatic finish to it, in my opinion. I feel like I think Duke could run away with the game against Houston. Now, I could be completely wrong on this, and you're probably wondering, oh, you're wearing blue in support of Duke. No, it just so happens that this is the shirt that I'm wearing today. But yes, I do have Duke winning the national championship, and I need that for my bracket group in order to win it. So yes, I do have some wager on Duke winning. That would benefit me. But looking at the 2 games though, I had Florida, I didn't have Florida. I had Auburn getting knocked out pretty early in the tournament. I had them getting knocked out in the round of 32 against Creighton. Now, that did not happen, but I have been very impressed with Auburn. Janai Broome has had a very good tournament. Pettiford has had a really good tournament as well. They have, and they struggled down the stretch in the regular season. So I was kind of on that wave, like, okay, they're not going to make a run. But they have played exceptionally well, and they're going to be a tough out. And, Florida, you look at Florida, they were down against Texas Tech. And then it took a barrage of 3-pointers to get them back in the game with, not much time left. And they were able to pull off the comeback. But, they have played well, too. They knocked out the defending champion, 2-time defending champion, UConn Huskies. But, yeah, that's, Walter Clayton Jr., that's one of the players you got to pay attention to. for this game. He's the key offensive guy. But I think this could be the better game of the two. Now, I'm going to be honest. You got two, and by the way, two SEC teams going at it. Going back to the previous matchups, I want to take a look at those for a second. So, Florida and Auburn, they played, the last time they played against each other, you have to go back to February 8th. They played against each other. And Florida won that game 90-81. And in that game, Clayton Jr. had 19 points for Auburn. Janai Broom had 18. Pettifer off the bench had 14. And then I think they played each other. Oh, they only played each other once this past season, in the regular season. So yeah, that was the one time they matched up against each other during the year, and Florida got the best of them. But I'm kind of leaning towards Auburn in this game. I don't know. I've been paying more attention to Auburn, I guess, just because Florida. I haven't really had to, other than the Texas Tech game, I obviously had Florida in my Final Four, but I didn't watch their first round game against Norfolk State. I did pay attention to the UConn game. That was a very entertaining game. Maryland, that game was close in the beginning, but they pulled away. Texas Tech, obviously, that game, again, it took great shooting at the end to come back and win that. So, I don't know. I just like how Auburn's been playing. And I'm kind of leaning towards taking them in this game. Now, Florida is a 2.5-point favorite. But I don't know. I'm kind of leaning towards Auburn to go all the way. They knocked off a couple of Big Ten teams in Michigan and Michigan State. I had Michigan State in my championship game. Unfortunately, that did not happen. I took a little bit of a risk. Creighton, like I said, that was the team I had knocking off Auburn. That didn't happen, and they, won by 20 against Alabama State. But yeah, the final two games of the regular season, they lost to Texas Tech or Texas A&M, and then they lost to Alabama in overtime. So and then they lost in the SEC conference tournament. So, some people weren't too high on them going into the tournament, but they have played really well. So I am going to take Auburn to win. I think it's going to be a close game. It's going to be very entertaining. It's going to be close. But I think Auburn squeaks by and advances. And then we got Houston and Duke. Duke has played, I think, the best. You look at what they've done to... Arizona, they won by 7. They put up 100 points in that game. But, I think the win against Alabama was really impressive just because, Alabama's a really good team. And we saw the amount of threes that they shot and made in their win against, who was it against? Oh, against BYU. They put up 113 points in 2 halves. They shot... What was it? They made 25 threes. And then they go up against Duke, and Duke beats them by 20. And they only made 8 threes in that game. So, and Houston, they were up big against Tennessee. They kind of let Tennessee get back in the game a little bit. And, also, it was a close game against Purdue. Gonzaga almost pulled off a comeback against them. They've had to grind out some of these wins, whereas I feel like with Duke, they really haven't had to do that in this tournament. They beat up on Mount St. Mary's. They beat up on Baylor. Arizona, yes, the game was a little bit close, but, Duke was never in jeopardy of losing that game. And then Alabama. So, and they have the best player in Cooper Flagg. But Houston is a very good team. I did talk about LJ Cryer, I think, earlier in the week. he had 30 points against Gonzaga, then he had 5 points against Purdue, and then he had 17 against Tennessee. So which LJ Cryer are we going to get in this game for Houston? I just feel like Duke is the best team. It's just I'm obviously picking them to advance to the national championship game. So when the dust settles, I have Duke and I have Auburn making the tournament. So yeah, that's how I see it going. But could be wrong. We could see an upset, but that's how I see things playing out. Duke and Auburn for the national championship when we get to Monday. So let me know what you guys think, though, about that. Who do you have winning these games? Let me know in the comments. We also do have the women's tournament going on as well, which I really haven't talked about. The Final Four is today. You got Texas and South Carolina for the first game, and then you have UConn against UCLA. Both of those games will be on ESPN, and you actually have 3 of the 4 teams are 1 seeds. UConn is the only number 2 that's in the Final Four. So that's going on as well. And like I said, tomorrow is the men's Final Four. And the first game is 6:09 p.m. Eastern Time, Florida against Auburn. And then 8:49 p.m. Eastern Time is Houston against Duke. Both games are on CBS. So it should be a great weekend for basketball. Yeah, and then, NBA playoffs are right around the corner. So speaking of the NBA, we are going to take our first break of the show. And then when we come back, we will talk about the game last night between the Lakers and the Warriors. We'll talk about that when we return. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.